Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Ay lalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa New Era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
We're working to connect a region of over 600 cultural bridges between our lands.
Hello, I'm Alma Angeles. Welcome to ASEAN in Focus. We're coming to you live from Manila and Thailand. Hello, Esther. Thank you for keeping me company today. How are you?
Hi, Alma. I'm good. Thank you for asking. I'm Esther Adanga from EBC Thailand Bureau, bringing you the news in the dynamic ASEAN region.
On today's headlines. The Department of National Defense, or DND Secretary Delfin Lorenzana, on Sunday said the resupply mission to Filipino troops stationed at the BRP Sierra Madre in Ayungin Shoal in the West Philippine Sea, or WPS, will proceed this week.
And the first group of foreign tourists, around 200 South Koreans, touches down on Vietnam's Phu Quoc Island after a nearly 2-year closure to tourists as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic.
And when Dang Nguyen left Vietnam to work abroad, the 37-year-old says he'd been assured he would be employed by a German company in Serbia, only to have his passport taken away upon arrival at a Chinese-run factory where conditions were dire.
And milestones and key achievements of the ASEAN Economic Community. Let's watch it later.
First in our news, the Department of National Defense, or DND Secretary Delfin Lorenzana, said the resupply mission to Filipino troops stationed at the BRP Sierra Madre in Ayungin Shoal in the West Philippine Sea will proceed this week. Lorenzana made this remark when asked to confirm Western Command Chief Vice Admiral Ramil Roberto Enriquez's comments that the resupply will proceed per the DND Chief's orders. When asked whether Navy, Coast Guard, or even Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, or BFAR vessels, will escort the Philippine supply boats this time, Lorenzana said there will be none, as the Chinese will not be interfering this time. No Coast Guard or Navy escort. The Chinese will not interfere per my conversation with the Chinese ambassador, he said. He said we will see if they are true to their words, as our Navy will proceed with the resupply this week. Lorenzana also said they have been talking with Chinese Ambassador Wang Shilian since the evening of November 16, when the incident took place, until November 20. Asked also to comment on claims that the Philippine boats were water cannoned for trespassing, he said it is China that is violating the country's sovereign rights within its 200 nautical miles exclusive economic zone or EEZ. The Western Command earlier reported that the 3 Chinese Coast Guard vessels blocked and water cannoned 2 Philippine supply boats or bangkas on November 16. No one was hurt, but the Philippine vessels, which were identified as Anaiza May 1 and 3, had to abort their mission after one of them had its outrigger damaged by the water cannon. On Friday, Malacanang said the Philippine government will not abandon the Filipino troops serving as a detachment at the Ayungin Shoal.
And French embassies in Manila expressed serious concerns on the latest Ayungin incident involving 3 Chinese Coast Guard ships that black and fired water cannon onto Filipino boats. Germany and France share serious concerns on latest incident caused by 3 Chinese vessels against 2 Philippine supply boats in South China Sea. We call to refrain from conduct that endangers stability in Indo-Pacific. German ambassador to the Philippines, Anke Reffenstuel, said Saturday night. We firmly support dialogue between stakeholders on the basis of international law, she added. The statement was tweeted separately by the German envoy and French ambassador to the Philippines, Michel Bacchus. Meanwhile, the Australian embassy in Manila also asserted 2016 arbitral ruling in South China Sea and expressed solidarity with Manila. Australia has consistently expressed support for UNCLOS, or United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, the 2016 South China Sea Arbitral Award, and an open, inclusive region. Australian Ambassador to the Philippines, Stephen Robinson, said Saturday, We continue to work and support our Philippines partner on maritime issues and are concerned with recent destabilizing incidents in the South China Sea, he added. Earlier, the United States and Japanese governments also raised their concerns and called for South China Sea parties to adhere to international law. In a presser hours after the Philippine side publicly protested Beijing's action in the Ayungin last November 18, Chinese Foreign Minister Xiao Lijian said the 2 nations are in communication on the issue.
And the news continues here on ASEAN in Focus. Esther and I will be back right after this.
Nakakamiss gumala, no?
Miss ko na magsagyo!
Miss ko na mag-jet ski. Oh no! Basta ingat lang. Para wala kayong mamiss.
Optimum Pride, oh.
Papatawarin namin kayo ng libre. Walang bayad.
Pag bumiti ka, bigyan mo ko 500 ah.
Tapos ay libre akong palaro sa inyo. Dito sa ating Game of the Day. LOL. O lulubog o lulutang. Oh no! Funniest nakaball videos.
Kung gusto niyo pa ng extra flavor, pwede rin natin itong... Ano mo flavor na mo, minta? Yung hint ng anghang ng suka. Perfect na perfect ka-partner nitong pansit. Yung ang ano na niya, ang thick. This is now our finished product. Looks good, di ba?
Ang trabaho naman talaga ng maritime group ng PNP is to enforce the maritime
Tayo
laws.
lang yung stricto, pero in other parts of the country, pwede na naman ang tourism.
Definitely, we are ready to respond to a possible spike.
Sapagkat ang aming intensyon ay makatulong lang sa mga tao na wala talagang magamit na gamot.
92 voted for this resolution, which will make it stronger, calling on the Justice Department to come up with more stringent ways to be able to avert these hate crimes against Asian Americans.
Mas marami po tayong magagamit ngayon na mga tools or mga equipment.
Maraming salamat, Weng, at sa buong puwersa ng Balitalakayan sa pagkakataong ito.
Tapos ngayon ang mga pangunahing balita live sa teleradyo ng Net25 at Radyo Aguila DCEC 1062. Kasama si Weng de la Fuente sa
At itong Balitalakayan will live in interesting times.
Welcome sa pinakabagong game show ng Net25. Maraming salamat po sa napakainit na pagtanggap niyo sa akin para maging bahagi ng saya at panalo agad-agad.
It's been a while and you deserve it. That dimples should be seen everywhere.
Kaya simulan na natin ang pamimigay ng agad-agad na kasiyahan at cash siyahan dito sa newest game show na diskarte at bilis ng kamay ang puhunan. 3 rounds ang paglalabanan ng 4 na players. Isa sa kanila ang magwawagi ng 20,000 pesos na posibleng umabot ng hanggang 100,000 pesos!
Sigurado ako maiuwi ko ang premyo na 20,000. Sigurado ako.
Yan!
Nasa akin eh.
Bakit dapat sa yan?
Nakita ko dun eh. Kala ko, tara, game! Agad-agad! Kinuha ko.
Ito na ang pangalawang agawan choices. 17,100. O. 12,000. C. 400,000. D. 1.7 million. Agad-agad. Pinindot siya ni Wes, so ikaw ang sasagot na to. Natakot ka sa numbers?
Pag numbers kasi kainis eh. Pero pag talent free numbers, masaya yun.
Alex, sino ang pinipili mong sasagot ng tanong na yan?
Wilma!
Ang bilis!
Alam mo bakit?
Bakit?
Wilma doesn't know.
And I'm your Tara Game Master, Aga Mulak. And this is Tara Game!
Agad-agad!
Welcome back. The German and French embassies in Manila expressed serious concerns on the latest Ayungin incident involving 3 Chinese Coast Guard ships that blocked and fired water cannon on 2 Filipino boats. Germany and France share serious concerns on the latest incident caused by 3 Chinese vessels against 2 Philippine supply boats in South China Sea. We call to refrain from conduct that endangers stability in Indo-Pacific, according to German ambassador to the Philippines, Ank Riefenstahl, on Saturday night. She said, we firmly support dialogue between stakeholders on the basis of international law. The statement was tweeted separately by the German envoy and French ambassador to the Philippines, Michel Bocaz. Meanwhile, the Australian embassy in Manila also asserted the 2016 arbitral ruling in the South China Sea and expressed solidarity with Manila. Australia has consistently expressed support for UNCLOS, or the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, the 2016 South China Sea Arbitral Award, and an open and inclusive region, Australian ambassador to the Philippines, Stephen Robinson AO, said on Saturday. He also said we continue to work with and support our Philippine partners on maritime issues and are concerned with recent destabilizing incidents in the South China Sea. He added, Earlier, the U.S. and Japanese governments also raised their concerns and called for South China Sea parties to adhere to international law. In a presser hours after the Philippine side publicly protested Beijing's actions in the Ayungin Shoal last November 18, Chinese Foreign Minister Zhao Lijian said the two nations are in communication on the issue.
The Philippine Navy, or PN, continues to patrol and maintain its presence in the country's vast territorial waters, an official said on Sunday. Western Command Chief Vice Admiral Ramil Roberto Enriquez said it is not very much publicized, but our Navy is constantly patrolling our seas. He said, in fact, as we speak, BRP Jose Rizal, or FF-150, the ship which we had constructed by South Korea, is now patrolling off Pag-asa Island, and her sister ship, the BRP Antonio Luna, or FF-151, is now patrolling in the Reed Bank. Meanwhile, he said repairs to the damaged supply boats are now nearing completion. Once the repairs are moved to be satisfactory, the resupply missions to Filipino troops stationed at the BRP Sierra Madre in Ayungin Shoal in the West Philippine Sea will proceed immediately. Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana on Sunday said the resupply mission for Filipino troops will proceed this week and that China will not interfere with this mission. Lorenzana said they have been talking with Chinese Ambassador Wang Xiaoyan since the evening of November 16, when the incident took place, until November 20. As also to comment on claims that the Philippine boats were water cannon for trespassing, he said it is China that is violating the country's sovereign rights within its 200 nautical miles exclusive economic zone. And at least 15 people were drowned on Sunday while crossing a flooded causeway in Myanmar to reach a Buddhist temple for a festival, rescue workers told AFP. The tragedy unfolded as thousands of worshippers tried to reach the Kiek Ne Pagoda, which lies on a rocky outcrop around 3 kilometers or 2 miles off the coast near the town of Tanbuzayat in southern Mon State. Local officials said some died when they tried to cross the poorly marked causeway, which is only around 4 meters wide, while the tide was too high. More drowned later when they were jostled from the crowded walkway into the sea. Ho Kiao-tu, an emergency responder from Tanbuzayat, told AFP that 15 bodies had been taken to hospital and 3 people were still missing. And a national poll in Thailand revealed that a large majority of people are concerned the COVID-19 situation could worsen in the next 1 to 2 months after the reopening of the economy. We have more details from Veronica Carino. Hi, Nika.
Good afternoon, Esther, and to all of our viewers. Yes, 75.61% of respondents of an opinion poll conducted by the National Institute of Development Administration, or NIDA poll, are concerned that the COVID-19 situation will worsen in the next 1 to 2 months following Thailand's reopening last November 1st. Via phone interviews on 1,320 people aged 18 and up from various levels of education and occupation across the country between November 15 and 16, the poll was in order to compile their opinions on the overall situation following the country's reopening on November 1. 42.88% said they were fairly satisfied with the government's effort to prevent the spread of COVID-19. 22 or 29.09% were a little dissatisfied. 17.04% were not satisfied at all. 8.64% were very satisfied, and 2.35% had no answer or were not interested. In terms of the economy, 48.11% thought it stayed the same, 29.85% thought it improved slightly, 9.26% thought it got a little worse, and 8.94% thought it got a lot worse, and only 3.48% thought it got a lot better. When asked if they were concerned that the COVID-19 pandemic would worsen in the next 1 or 2 months, a large majority, 75.61%, said yes, with 43.11% very concerned because the number of new infections in the country was still high and some people had not been vaccinated. And 32.50% very concerned because foreign tourists could bring new COVID-19 variants with them. On the other hand, 24.09% said they were unconcerned, with 15.23% saying they were unconcerned because they lived in areas where pandemic had been contained, and 8.86% saying they were unconcerned at all because the government had put strict measures in place and some people had been double jabbed. The remaining 0.30% had no response or were uninterested. When asked which was more important to them, economic survival or health safety, 58.94% said health, 27.58% preferred economic survival with some health risk, and 13.48% left it up to the government to decide. This update is from Bangkok Post. Back to you, Esther.
Thank you, Nika, for all your updates. You stay safe.
Thank you, and likewise, reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand, I am Veronica Carino, and we live in interesting times.
Thank you, Veronica, as well. Some Malaysians are refusing to get their booster shots due to fears of vaccine mixing. Here's Alfred Balmes to give us the details. Alfred.
Hi, Alma. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
According to Penang Health, Agriculture and Agro-Based Industry and Rural Development Committee Chairman Dr. Norlila Aripen, some senior citizens and high-risk groups are refusing to take a COVID-19 vaccine booster shots because they are afraid of missing vaccine. She added, based on the information received, some of them refuse to accept a combination of 2 different doses of vaccines. That is why Penang, Malaysia is among the lowest 5 states for booster dose recipient. She told reporters after handling over the COVID-19 student aid fund checks to 111 students who lost their parents to the virus here on Sunday, November individual has received their booster, but about 40% of eligible recipients for booster dose did not turn up for their appointments after being notified through the My Misa de Terrera application. Norlila said the state government is now working to raise awareness on booster shots, including setting up vaccination centers to provide better access for the people in the state. There are 74 private clinics and 8 hospitals administering booster doses. During the interview of the local newspaper here, effective Monday, November 22, she said the public can walk into any private vaccination center in Penang, Malaysia to get their COVID-19 booster shots. That would be the latest update here in Malaysia, Alma.
Thank you very much, Alfred, for that update there in Malaysia. Stay safe and looking forward for more updates.
Likewise, live reporting from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, this is Alfred Balmes. We live in interesting times.
Meanwhile, a first group of foreign tourists, around 200 South Koreans, touched down on Vietnam's Phu Quoc Island after a nearly 2-year closure to tourists as a result of the pandemic. Let's take a look.
Because in my memory, Vietnam Phu Quoc is very lovely and wonderful, so that's why I came here. Yeah, I think I said, yeah. Because everyone had get a vaccine, so I think it's safe. Actually, I'm satisfied just only visit Phu Quoc. That go outside, it's okay.
Thì chúng tôi cũng tin tưởng rằng với cái ngày hôm nay chúng ta khai trương cái việc quay trở lại của các chuyến bay quốc tế đến với cảng không Phú Quốc thì cũng là một cái tín hiệu tích cực để cho cái sự phục hồi từng bước nhanh chóng trở lại cái để đưa cái ngành kinh tế du lịch và hàng không là trở lại đúng cái quỹ đạo của mình.
Now, last Saturday, around 200 South Koreans touched down on the island, which lies a few kilometers off Cambodia in the azure waters of the Gulf of Thailand after a vaccine passport scheme kicked off this month in Vietnam. But others may skip the lazy beach break in favor of action and entertainment as they shuffle between a 12,000-room hotel complex, an amusement park, an 18-hole golf course, safari park, and miniature Venice. The $2.8 billion leisure resort, part of the Sleepless City model, opened 6 months ago as COVID-19 ravaged tourism across the world and as other Asian countries reliant on the industry, like Thailand, were rethinking their mass tourism frameworks.
Foreign travelers returned to the white sand beaches and tropical jungle of Vietnam's Phu Quoc Island on Saturday. The once poor fishing island, which lies a few kilometers off the coast of Cambodia, is now pushing to be the Asia's next holiday hotspot as pandemic restrictions ease. The once poor fishing island, which lies a few kilometers off Cambodia, is now pushing to be the holiday hotspot in ASEAN. Tens of thousands of hotel rooms have been built on the island in recent years, and many of its palm-fringed beaches are now home to giant resorts. But the rapid development has come to a cost to natural environment. Let's take a look.
Be in the long-term benefit of the island and for Vietnam. There was too little attention given to what would actually attract foreign tourists, particularly those that were interested in buying property. You know, more and more tourists are very conscious of the environment, and they don't want to be going to places where beaches are littered or where effluent is going into the sea. And that's something that needs urgent attention by the authorities. It can't be left.
Với Phú Quốc mà hoang sơ thì nó sẽ chỉ là viên ngọc chưa được mài rũa. Nhưng khi Phú Quốc có những đơn vị khách sạn lớn nổi tiếng vào, ví dụ như các thương hiệu là Intercon hay là Marriott vào, thì Phú Quốc nó sẽ là một viên ngọc và đã được mài rũa và nó sẽ sánh ngang với được Phuket hay là Bali.
Vingroup, the enormously powerful conglomerate behind the new complex, is pushing to make the island a new international destination on the world tourist map. To cater for tourist boom, 40,000 hotel rooms have been built, planned, or are under construction. Vice Chairman of Vietnam Tourism Advisory Board, Ken Atkinson, told AFP that's more hotel keys than they have in Sydney, Australia. Globally popular vacation spots such as Thailand's Phuket have given Vietnam something to aim for.
Meanwhile, back here in the country, the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases has approved the Phase 4 implementation of COVID-19 alert level system covering the rest of the regions across the country. That was according to Malacanang, announcing it on Saturday night. The IATF approved to implement Phase 4 of the alert level system, placing the remaining regions under respective alert levels from November 22 to the 30th, according to Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles, who is now the acting palace spokesperson, in a press statement. 5 areas would be placed under alert level 3, including Apayao Mountain Province and Ifugao in the Cordillera Administrative Region or CAR, Dinagat Islands in Region 13, and Sulu in Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao or BARM. Nograles said 19 areas will be placed under alert level 2 of the final phase of the alert level system implementation, and these will include the Cordillera Administrative Region, Abra, Benguet, Kalinga. Region 4B or Mimaropa will be Oriental Mindoro, Occidental Mindoro, Puerto Princesa, Marinduque, Romblon, and Palawan. Region 13, which is Caraga, Butuan City, Surigao del Norte, Agusan del Sur, Surigao del Sur, and Agusan del Norte. Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao or BARM, Basilan, Cotabato City, Tawi-Tawi, Lanao del Sur, and Maguindanao. On November 11, President Duterte signed Executive Order 151 for the nationwide rollout of the alert level system that will be undertaken in 4 tiers or phases.
And the news continues here in ASEAN in Focus after this short break.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Your weekly dose of entrepreneurial inspiration to update you on the latest developments in the world of business. Get up close and personal with CEOs and thought leaders to help you discover valuable insights. Sharpen your instincts for smart decision-making with the latest markets and economic trends, disruptive ideas, global innovation, social entrepreneurship, and other leading-edge business ideas. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business, from vision to action.
Welcome back. Now, when Du Nguyen left Vietnam to work abroad, the 37-year-old says he'd been assured he would be employed by a German company in Serbia, only to have his passport taken away upon arrival at a Chinese-run factory where conditions were dire. Some 500 Vietnamese workers employed on the construction of a factory in Serbia for Chinese tire company Ling Long went on strike, and human rights groups say the workers are victims of human trafficking for the purpose of labor exploitation. Take a look.
Và bên phía môi giới Việt Nam có nói rằng là chủ nhận lao động của mình bên phía Serbia là người Đức, nhưng thực chất khi bọn mình sang đến nơi thì lại là người tiếp nhận lao động của Việt Nam sang là người Trung Quốc. Cho nên cái đấy anh em rất bất ngờ, vì từ trước cái này nếu biết chủ Trung Quốc thì bọn mình không sang. Nên sang đến nơi thì mọi thứ nó khác hoàn toàn so với phía môi giới Việt Nam nói. Sang đến nơi là điện nước là không có. Vào mùa lạnh âm đến 1 đến 2 độ, nước nóng không có mà dùng. Và anh em đi làm về rất vất vả, muốn tắm nhưng không có nước mà tắm, cho nên đành để vậy mà đi ngủ. Còn hộ chiếu hôm mọi người xuống sân bay thì phía Trung Quốc người ta thu lại hết, không nói về nguyên nhân gì mà thu hộ chiếu của mọi người cả, chỉ biết là phía Trung Quốc người ta thu và đến bây giờ không trả lại nữa. Có anh em ở đây mấy tháng rồi cũng không chịu được sinh hoạt mới ăn uống ở đây, mới công việc đây, cho nên mới bỏ trốn các nước khác. Nhưng đều bị bắt quay lại trả về phía công ty, nhưng phía công ty cũng không tiếp nhận lại số người bỏ trốn đấy, người ta đuổi luôn. Và cái đáng nói là lúc đuổi một số người bỏ trốn đấy, nhưng phía công ty cũng không trả lại các hộ chiếu cho những người bỏ trốn, cho nên những người đấy không biết là sẽ đi đâu và về đâu. Rất khó khăn cho anh em người Việt Nam ở bên cộng đồng Serbia này. Còn anh em ở trong này không khác thì đi tù, chỉ hơn đi tù cái là được đi lại một chút thôi, chứ không được đi xa. Nếu đi xa trong vòng 1 hay 2 ngày hay là như thế nào đấy, nó cũng cho là đi bỏ trốn sang nơi khác, về nó không tiếp nhận nữa. Còn tình hình trong này anh em ăn ở rất thiếu thốn, không có một cái gì cho anh em sinh hoạt. Sinh hoạt thì nó không được thoải mái về nước non và điện đóm cho nó. Đấy là những cái gì mình trải qua trong này thì mình chia sẻ, vì nó không có nhiều thời gian, sợ nó ảnh hưởng đến mọi người sống trong này, cho nên mình chỉ làm đến tầm này thôi.
The situation at the factory and the alleged deception used to lure employees has made headlines in Serbia after Nguyen and hundreds of other Vietnamese went on strike this week. The strike that started on Wednesday was a rare show of defiance by laborers at the Chinese-backed enterprise in the country. Beijing has invested billions in Serbia and neighboring Balkan countries in recent years, hoping to expand its economic footprint in Central Europe. Serbia has been quick to cash in on China's interests as it seeks to court a range of investors amid the ongoing tug of war between the East and West over influence in the Balkans. But Belgrade has repeatedly been accused of giving Chinese-owned companies a free hand in how they run their operations. Critics from civil society, human rights groups, and in the media say the government has turned a blind eye to environmental concerns and potential human rights violations. The Vietnamese workers were employed to build a factory for the Chinese tire company Ling Long in the small northern city of Zrenjanin, considered a centerpiece of Beijing-backed investments in Serbia.
In other news, the Asian Development Bank, or ADB, has approved a $600 million policy-based loan to help the Philippines provide quality and equitable health services for all Filipinos as part of its universal health care, or UHC, reform program. The Build Universal Healthcare program seeks to support the government's initiatives to improve the financing and delivery of health services and implement measures to monitor the performance of health service providers. The Philippines enacted the UHC Act in February 2019 to ensure Filipinos have equitable access to quality health services and avoid high out-of-pocket health expenses. It includes a series of reforms planned over several years. The Philippines has automatically included all Filipinos in its national health insurance program as part of its UHC reform. It also mobilized revenues from higher taxes on alcohol, sweetened beverages, tobacco, and heated tobacco and vapor products to help finance UHC and expand primary care services.
The Philippines is using metrics based on World Health Organization or WHO standards to help in its border control, Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeres said Saturday. The assurance was made amid the coronavirus surge in Europe, which is now back at the COVID-19 pandemic epicenter. Vergeres said the system Manila is using also derived from the United States Centers for Disease Control, which monitors the incidence rate of COVID-19 in countries. Take a look.
We are using a metric or a system kung saan we have adopted this with the Center for Disease Control ng United States and also with the WHO standards, kung saan meron ho tayong ginagamit na tinitignan natin yung incidence rate ng mga bawat bansa na ito, tinitignan natin yung 2-week growth rate din nila, tinitignan natin yung testing capacity nila. So with this kind of analysis that we have adopted, nakikita ho natin kung ano yung mga bansa na dapat nire-restrict natin. That's why we have green, yellow, and red countries. So sa ngayon, yan po ang pinapatupad natin, and we are assured na ito pong ating classification na ito is helping the country in our border control.
At present, the Faroe Islands and the Netherlands have been placed under the Philippines' red list.
The Philippine National Police on Monday said it will coordinate with the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency or PDEA for a joint investigation into the claims of President Duterte that a presidential candidate is using cocaine. We are under PDEA in the campaign against illegal drugs. This is why our efforts are always coordinated with PDEA, and I've been with PDEA Director General Wilkins Villanueva, and we are pioneers of PDEA. So through coordination, their direction, we will know their direction in the campaign against illegal drugs. That is according to PNP Chief General Leonardo Carlos in a press briefing in Camp Crame. Carlos, however, earlier ordered the police force's drug enforcement group to obtain additional information on that matter. The president did not divulge the identity of the presidential hopeful, but dropped hints that the latter is a male with a very weak character and comes from a wealthy family with a prominent patriarch.
5 presidential aspirants bared on Thursday to the business community after their economic platforms when elected in the top national position. During the 47th Philippine Business Conference and Expo of the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the country's largest business organization, Manila Mayor Isko Moreno, Senators Bongo, Panfilo Lacson, Manny Pacquiao, and Vice President Leni Robredo were given the chance to discuss their programs for the economy. Let's take a look.
As I have previously stated, I will work with Congress to reduce the taxes on 2 most basic of commodities, petroleum and electricity. While it is true that this will be a loss of substantial enough revenues for our government, it will also, at the same time, the other side of the coin, will alleviate the sufferings of our people. It will also increase their purchasing power. We must also upgrade our tech book courses to include the adoption of technologies of the 4th Industrial Revolution.
The Duterte administration has already mapped out concrete plans to sustain our nation's gains amidst unprecedented challenges. All we have to do is to continue to enforce, implement, and improve these programs, all for the welfare of our Filipino people. We will increase the number of negosyo centers established nationwide and continue the Pondo sa Pagbabago at Pag-asenso P3, which was launched in 2017, a microfinancing scheme alternative to the 5-6 lending scheme. To sustain Build, we will partner with the private sector, improve and strongly pursue the collection of taxes, and exercise prudent fiscal management.
Fully fund our existing gaps that will lead to the full implementation of the Universal Healthcare Act to provide not just free vaccines to all Filipinos, but also free testing and treatment backed by data-driven contact tracing that will enable us to stop all lockdowns. We may start by ensuring that our government offices prioritize local contractors and manufacturers in its procurement. Imagine how the capital inflow will help our economy if, say, the great fraction of the multi-billion peso agency funds of the PSDBM is funneled to our local business sector instead of some favored Chinese traders.
Only agriculture but yung mga fisher folks natin. Ayoko ng importation. Ayoko mag-import ang bansa natin ng rice. At kailangan palakasin, i-maximize natin yung pagtatanim natin, suportahan ang ating mga farmers. Dapat sila ang sumaya. Corporate tax natin mataas masyado. Kailangan mababa lang para makapag-compete naman tayo sa ibang bansa. And then hindi lang po yan, marami pa po tayong kulang yung sa kuryente po natin. Yung power supply. Siyempre, marami po kasi akong kakilala sa ibang bansa na nagtatanong, gusto po nila mag-invest dito sa bansa natin. Kaso lang, ang unang tanong, how's the power supply? How's the internet signal?
If we are fortunate to be elected president, we will inherit huge challenges.
and it will take great effort to rise to them. We will not stop at vaccines. We will start stockpiling different COVID treatment medicines and deploy them to areas where there are shortages. We'll set aside 216 billion pesos in the national budget for ayuda distribution to protect families from hunger and provide them with their basic needs without being forced to go to work. We'll also accelerate the rollout of universal health care by concentrating on enrolling every Filipino in the UHC system in the first 3 months.
In Malaysia, the longest governing party stormed to victory in closely watched state polls on Saturday, gaining a boost in power ahead of a general election. The United Malays National Organization, or UMNO, was the linchpin of a coalition that governed Malaysia for 6 decades until it was booted from power in 2018 following a storm of corruption allegations. Former leader Najib Razak, who is appealing his criminal conviction over the state fund 1MDB graft scandal, led UMNO's election campaign. After a period of political turbulence that saw 2 governments collapse, UMNO clawed back to power at the national level 3 months ago and reclaimed the premiership earlier this year. The polls for the local legislature in the southern state of Malacca were a contest between UMNO, its partners in national government, and an opposition alliance. The victory for UMNO indicates it could do well in national elections. It's also a big win for corruption-tainted Najib and could pave the way for UMNO to dominate national politics again, according to analysts. The result in Malacca is a big blow for veteran opposition leader Anwar Ibrahim and his Pact of Hope alliance, which only won the remaining 5 seats. And that coalition won a historic victory at national polls in 2018, ejecting the UMNO-led coalition from power. But once in power, the alliance was driven by bitter infighting and eventually collapsed in 2020.
And now let's watch the milestones and key achievements of the ASEAN Economic Community.
In this video, we will look back at some milestones and key achievements of the ASEAN Economic Community, or the AEC. The ASEAN economy has been growing significantly. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, the region's GDP grew annually by more than 5% on average over the past decade. As at $3 trillion, ASEAN is now the world's 5th largest economy. With its expansive supply networks, fast-growing middle class, young and digitally savvy workforce, and resource endowments, it is no surprise that ASEAN has become one of the world's top trading regions and investment destinations. Under the AEC, work on internal market integration has significantly progressed. Intra-regional tariffs has been virtually eliminated, and our focus now is on addressing non-tariff barriers and intensifying trade facilitation, leveraging on digital technologies where possible. Initiatives such as the ASEAN Trade Repository, ASEAN Single Window, ASEAN Customs Transit System, and the ASEAN-wide self-certification are just some examples. Efforts to modernize customs procedures and harmonize standards also continue to advance. Currently, we are reviewing the ASEAN Trade in Goods Agreement, or ATIGA, to keep it relevant and effective. Services also play a key role in ASEAN market integration. It is the largest contributor to the region's GDP and foreign direct investment. Through the years, the region has been gradually opening its services sectors under the ASEAN Framework Agreement on Services. Our services work is now further elevated through the recently signed ASEAN Trade in Services Agreement. Likewise, we continue to improve our investment environment. The work is pursued under the ASEAN Comprehensive Investment Agreement through the four-pronged approach of investment liberalization, protection, facilitation, and promotion. On finance, we promote financial integration, stability, and inclusion through efforts to liberalize financial services, promote banking integration, capital market development, and insurance market integration. ASEAN is also advancing its work on sustainable finance and on digitalization of financial services. Electronic commerce has been high in our agenda in recent years, but we have yet to tap into the full potential of digitalization of trade. Moving forward, we expect to see a greater role for digitalization in the ASEAN single market. Fundamental to this is an enabling business environment, strengthened by the work in the areas of competition policy, consumer protection, and intellectual property rights, as well as in promoting innovation. Our cooperation across sectors is also deepening, from transport, energy, minerals, food, agriculture and forestry, information and communication technology, science and technology, to tourism. And across sectors, we again observe the same trends of digitalization and sustainability gaining ground. Fundamentally, AEC is about ensuring that the potential and benefits of economic integration can be enjoyed by all. Our work promotes the development, internationalization, and digitalization of the micro, small, and medium enterprises in recognition of their significant contribution to our economy and employment. We are also promoting inclusive business as a viable business model. Moving forward, we will be having more conversations on how the AEC can contribute to the narrowing of the development gap and achieving sustainable development in the region. Lastly, the AEC places importance on strengthening our linkages to the global economy. To date, we have 6 free trade agreements in force with China, Japan, Korea, India, Australia, and New Zealand, as well as Hong Kong, China. These agreements are periodically reviewed and upgraded for continued relevance and effectiveness. Most recently, the signing of the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or the RCEP agreement, demonstrated ASEAN global leadership. Once the RCEP comes into force, it will form one of the world's largest trade blocs, covering 30% of global output and trade. Over the years, the AEC has made significant achievements, but more needs to be done, particularly on high-impact initiatives that are key to our economic integration. We also need to be in addressing cross-sectoral issues as well as emerging issues faced by the region. As we enter the second phase of the AEC Blueprint 2025 implementation, we should use this renewed momentum to heed the lessons learned along the way. By doing so, we can stay the course toward our 2025 goals and beyond.
Thank you, Esther, as always, for keeping me company today.
Always my pleasure, Alma. And that is the latest news in the Southeast Asian nations. Stay updated about the ASEAN region. I'm Esther Aldanga from EBC Thailand Bureau, and we'll live in interesting times.
And we'll see you back tomorrow, same time, same place, here on ASEAN in Focus. I'm Alma Angeles. We live in interesting times.